This talk is on current affairs of May 5th, 2025. It was done without preparation or outline, which will probably be um, obvious. I don't propose to regale you with commentary of great depth and awareness. I'm just going to lay my heart bare. I admire the people of Gaza personally and tremendously, but I have no desire to be rewarded by them or to have any influence over their affairs. I'm an outsider. It's not my precinct. I'm deeply concerned they are being wronged. Nothing could be more obvious to me. Now, I was wronged by Zionists in the city of Pittsburgh as a child, and it went on through my whole life to the present hour. Well, the Zionists in question assigned me a book called That Was Then, This Is Now. If you think about it, do some soul searching. That title and choice of books is telltale. If you haven't read it, you might want to know and try to understand that the moral of the story is I just wanted to be sure that I hated you. Nosferatu is well aware that support for the victims in Gaza, the people of Gaza, support for the Palestinians is proof that you are not an anti-Semite. It's proof that you would have helped the Jews against Adolf Hitler. He knows that perfectly well. When he says, I just wanted to be sure that I hated you, it's because he knows that the majority of Americans will opt out and say, well, just give it to him already. Now, Toon has also bothered me his whole career. He had the help of Robert Fripp and Peter Gabriel. And they followed a cut and paste technique, retelling of a biographical history that they falsified. They tortured me, but the coercion and horrors were off camera. At least they're not releasing those parts. Then they claim to be doing psychological research. And this is where Hamas comes in, because Hamas glorifies Aaron Bushnell. At least you would think so from the way the TikTok media presents Bushnell, naming a street after him and so on. Well, he was a one-man supernova. You don't really understand Sin War until you understand the context of Peter Gabriel's Mount Desert Island Experience Park jazz. They were burning alive people who were sexually active all through the 80s, and that is what's going on. And they did it by trickery. They got rich Trump support from Texas Queer with the help of Midori Goto. It's a very oddball piece of history, I must say, very strange. Which brings us to the Bible Belt in Yemen. Let's start with Yemen. Yemen has basically three operational scenarios that I'm aware of. One is the division between North and South, which can be evaluated in terms of power sharing and tribal ancestry and old money syndicates, water rights, and things like this. A second factor is the way that Nasser in Egypt in the 50s worked with Eisenhower to establish a balance of power for the claim of development. And lastly is the form that development took which was to disenfranchise people who were the lifeblood of Yemen for centuries, the agrarians, subsistence farmers. People who think of Yemen as poor have obviously never looked at their architecture. Maybe they're poor income wise, but they're rich in cultural heritage, something that America, with its claim to be ancient people, tracing all the way back to 1946 under the British Mandate. And the wisdom of the British is something that America regally rolls out the red carpet for from the days of the founding fathers, if you believe Zionists. But I don't want to get too much into the berserk clause of explanations that get airplay in American nativism. I'm not scornful of America at all. I just don't think that Abraham Lincoln would be particularly enthused by Donald Trump. He was out to abolish child labor, not reinstitute it. So there's some problems there. But the Bible Belt is a line in the sand, the Mason-Dixon, and south of which people love the burning cross. They love Aaron Bushnell's gesture, and they love the massacre of the supernova because they don't like hippies. And these forces met with Mussolini in Fayoum shortly after the First World War. D.W. Griffith created the Burning Cross for the KKK. So when you look at the star sandwich location designators, which serve as mnemonic gestures in Tacoma, where you have the cosmonaut overlooking the supernova, you realize that leapfrog oligarchy, including Russia, were behind the two Vlads pussy ball, two impalers pussy ball, two virgins pussy ball, and that John Lennon pulled a martyrdom as show business. It was a Houdini operation. They evacuated him and changed his name and changed his face and transferred blame to the golem, who was specially enculturated by an Attica State prison psychiatrist who's now being squashed. If you want to use the word, one can emoja the sacred coward flip, perceiving and observationing the persona being squashed in a star sandwich between the supernova values and the Gaza Islamic values. A star sandwich squashing them to watch what's like. It's a Soylent Green machine that Mike Johnson came up with. We impinge the artificial intelligence of Japanese facials, the form of sex, the morally disturbed level has never had, and we superimpose it on the children being crank-shafted in a grinding machine in Pink Floyd's Gaza rave, while Brian Eno uploads hip-hop about splattering brains across the screen. This is what they did. It's terribly disturbing. And I want to address the way Seattle processes this nonsense. When I was at the Pitt News, I had Ending Hunger, a project its time has come, and Buckminster Fuller's Critical Path. And I was doing everything imaginable I could. It's an impoverished street urchin deaf man with certain background in reading to raise people's awareness and interest in ecology and computer proliferation for medical information purposes to places like Africa, and how to raise awareness about the impending ecological maelstrom, the problem of war on nature that was inherited from people who were promoting industrialization at the expense of the environment. During this time, the Reagan individual sent me a list of his priorities, at the bottom of which was ecology. And it said he wanted every person in America to get a piece of the expanding pie. That's what he put under ecology when I asked about it. I don't want to try to belabor the point about Reagan. I know Reagan has stooges all the way from here to Greta Thunberg. There's nothing I can do about that. But I want to clear the air of the nonsense. I was on call to answer ending hunger issues and critical path issues, and very rarely did anybody show up except maybe to laugh at it and run away. And throughout this time, there was a machine that had released AIDS and was gargling, growling, straining at the leash to make an example out of me. And I played into the trap and proved its existence. And it traced back through show business to the Zionists at Jeffman and the idea of a Green Party arc of colors. Get rid of the white. I'm a stand-in. I'm a closest continuer to quote Rawls. I'm from the same racial stock as Toon. I'm even from the family of Donaldsons. So please accept the sacrifice. And the engines come, woo, 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 woo. We do sacredly accept the sacrifice in the name of Latino Marxo UW dialectical work of the Spinner Beanies of Seattle, Washington. And they claim I was eager to play with the bimbos. The eagerness was the bimbos coming to play with me. As soon as the program was off, it was off. I've been alone and I haven't sought not to be alone. But these cadaverous minds actually dissected me. They castrated me. They raped my deaf advocate. I mean, Seattle's garbage is just that. I'm not going to belabor the point about it.